They go up a level in Freemasonry, they basically agree to take on a curse or some type of evil upon them and their family if they don't fulfill that requirement of Freemasonry. And so that curse, we call it the Freemasonic curse, gets passed on from generation to generation. And you'll see it in various forms, like health issues, respiratory issues is a common one. You'll see it in forms of, and that doesn't mean everybody who has respiratory issues has got Freemasonry in their lineage. But it also comes in the form of, particular problems in relationship with the Six Commandments, high levels of homosexuality, infidelity, things like that. So that's what you tend to see from the Freemasonic curse. And so I tell people, if you have that in your lineage, you need to get it cleaned up. You really want to get it cleaned up. I tell people, look, when you get married, you're not just marrying her. You're not just marrying her family. You're marrying all the demons that are attached to her family. That's what you're marrying into. So you want to make sure she's got none when you're coming into this.
Levels that they start realizing this is not what I thought it was. But at that point, you're already invested into it because they make you take these oaths. And the oaths have curses attached to them that if you ever break away from them, the curses will come upon you and your family and your descendants. So there's a lot of people who have health problems that can't be diagnosed by doctors. And they just say, we don't understand why you have these illnesses. And so there's a very, very long set of prayers. It's about 8 or 9 pages typed out. It takes about 30 to 45 minutes to pray through them that break all these curses.
Talking about how in their family there was rampant infidelity among all the men in the family. And then you'll ask them, well, was there a lot of divorce that was actually going on? Yes. And then you'll ask them the subsequent question, was there Freemasonry in their lineage? And about 60 to 80% of the time, they would say yes. And that's because, so what you'll begin to see is the Freemason, Freemasonry spirit, once it gets into the family, it starts getting passed from generation to generation. And then that's why you see the divorce. But with the divorce, it's an open door to diabolic influence to the family, in the sense that if the demons drive it, they can get their foot into the door.
We've seen there are, in fact, generational effects of sin. And I know that's hard for people to accept. They say it's not fair. As I said before, as your mother's told you growing up, life is not fair. But God does allow it. And does it affect generations after? Sure it does. Our experience has been that there are generational effects and that these prayers do help. Our response to Freemasonry might seem extreme. You say, what's wrong with Freemasonry? A bunch of guys that hang around and do a social organization. It seems harmless. Well, the church has roundly condemned Freemasonry and as late as the 1980s. And actually, they said very, very seriously, if you belong to these organizations, you are cut off from the sacraments, which is a very powerful statement. And the statement from the Vatican also said that the local bishops can't overturn that. That this is from the Holy See itself. The question is why? Well, when you go into the specifics of it and the real spirituality behind it, you begin to realize it's an occult organization, whether you intend it or not. And so, especially as you move up in the ranks, it becomes more and more, a problem. So, in our experience has been that yes, the church's teachings is true because we see the effects of Freemasonry in families. So we have every one of our deliverance sessions, we have the people pray the prayer to lift the curses of Freemasonry. And then we ratify that as church. And you can see the effects of this down through families. You see these strange continuing patterns of diseases and conflicts and those sorts. You see that down through the generations, this same pattern of different kinds of diseases and conflicts and suicides, murders, homicides, strange diseases. So, and when you pray the prayers, oftentimes it lifts.
The Masons, Masonic orders, the Masonic orders are all demonic. We've had many, many cases of people who have been under serious attack, spiritual attack, because of the history of Masonic involvement in their families. And so those things have to be broken as well. There are curses that go along with those, and they have to be broken. So There are portals. There are things that people will do, playing with Ouija boards, all kinds of stuff that people will do. As I said, crystals is one that a lot of kids get into. Tarot cards. Here's an interesting one. A case that I knew of, a young girl. Her grandmother used to read tarot cards. And the young girl would just sit on her grandmother's lap, and that was it. The girl grew up, and now she's in college. And some of her college roommates decided they were going to play with these tarot cards, and they get out the little book, and they're going to read the tarot cards to see what the fortunes are and that sort of stuff. When the girl stood there and she said, "Oh, I know what that is." She said, "My grandmother used to do that all the time, and I can tell you exactly what that was." And she read the tarot cards, and boom, she was possessed, fully possessed. The demon came out, and the first things that he said to her, stupid witch, I had to wait in her for 20 years for her to make the first move." As soon as she stepped into the world of the occult, he possessed her. He was there the whole time. But she made the move, and he took advantage of it. So we have to be careful of all of those kinds of things, because they're real, and they do cause problems. So we call these portals. There are many, many different kinds of things out there today that open the door to the demonic.
Yeah, start with the priest. Go to your priest and say, I'm having, it seems like a very almost too statistically, there's so many things happening with our health. It seems like I'm cursed. Can you pray with me? And if the priest doesn't know what to do, you can ask the priest, do you know of a priest who does deliverance prayers, and get to that priest.
What if the father of my church won't do a deliverance prayer over me? I want you to know that I realize, I mentioned this several times, I know that many of you would like more deliverance praying, and you can't find someone. You can't find an exorcist, you can't find a deliverance priest. The Lord provides, and he'll take care of you. So trust in him. But I would say, especially if you're in a big, where there's a big city or so, check with the religious orders and whatever. Usually there's somebody. In a diocese, if there's 100 or 200 priests, usually there's somebody, one of them or two of them, who will be into deliverance praying. So you might just ask around. I think you're going to be surprised. Many times people send me emails saying, there's no one around here who does it. I said, yes, there is, and I tell them his name. So yeah, there are some.